In 1945, American forces discovered something in China that would make them question everything they thought they knew about war crimes. Deep in the forests of Pingfang stood a massive complex, bigger than most cities. The Japanese called it a water purification plant, but there was no water here, only horror. Inside, prisoners weren't given names. They were called logs, because that's all they were to the scientists who worked there. Commander Shiro Ishii had built the world's largest biological weapons factory, and he needed test subjects. Thousands of people were deliberately infected with plague, anthrax, and cholera. Others had limbs frozen solid, then thawed, then frozen again, just to see what would happen. Some were cut open while fully conscious. No anesthesia. The screams could be heard throughout the facility. When the war ended, America faced a choice: prosecute these monsters or make a deal. They chose the deal. In exchange for immunity, Ishii handed over his research. Data written in human blood. Unit 731 remains history's most suppressed war crime. March 20th, 1995. Tokyo rush hour. 5 subway trains carrying thousands of commuters to work. What happened next would become Japan's deadliest terrorist attack. At 8:15 a.m., passengers on the Hibiya line started collapsing, foaming at the mouth, convulsing violently. Then it happened on 4 more lines. Sarin gas, a chemical weapon so deadly, a single drop can kill. The mastermind was Shoko Asahara, leader of the Aum Shinrikyo cult. He convinced brilliant scientists and doctors that the apocalypse was coming, that only they could save humanity. His followers calmly boarded those trains carrying plastic bags filled with liquid death. They punctured the bags with sharpened umbrellas and walked away. 13 people died. Thousands were injured. Some still suffer today. But this wasn't their first attempt. The cult had been testing chemical weapons for years. They had plans to overthrow the government through mass poisoning. Security cameras captured the attackers boarding those trains, ordinary-looking people about to commit mass murder. They showed no emotion, no hesitation, just cold, calculated evil. Did you know a doctor once performed brain surgery with an ice pick in the back of a van? Between 1936 and 1967, Walter Freeman drove across America in what he called his lobotomobile. He wasn't saving lives. He was destroying them. Freeman performed over 3,500 lobotomies. His method was horrifying. He'd hammer an ice pick through a patient's eye socket, then wiggle it around to scramble their brain. The procedure took 10 minutes. No consent required. His youngest victim was 4 years old. Freeman even lobotomized President Kennedy's sister Rosemary in secret. Her family was told it would help her mood swings. Instead, she was left unable to speak or walk. Families across America discovered their loved ones had been turned into vegetables by the showman doctor. Children who could no longer recognize their parents. Adults reduced to the mental capacity of toddlers. Freeman claimed every case was a success. The medical world eventually turned against him, but the damage was done. Thousands of lives destroyed by a man with an ice pick and a God complex. Did you know that after World War II, the U.S. secretly brought over 1,600 Nazi war criminals to America and gave them government jobs? It was called Operation Paperclip, and it's one of the darkest chapters in American history. Meet Hubertus Strughold, a Nazi doctor who conducted deadly high-altitude experiments on prisoners. He watched them die in agony as he tested the limits of human survival. After the war, the U.S. erased his records, gave him a new identity, made him the father of NASA's space medicine program. While families of his victims searched for justice, Strughold lived comfortably in Texas, respected, honored, protected. He wasn't alone. Hundreds of Nazi scientists traded their war crimes for American citizenship. Rocket engineers, chemical weapons experts, human experimenters. The government knew exactly who they were. Classified documents revealed the horrifying truth about their past. America chose scientific advancement over justice. These men lived peaceful lives while their victims rotted in unmarked graves. The psychological horror isn't just what they did during the war. It's how easily evil can be rebranded as progress. In 1960, prisoners at Cincinnati jail thought they were getting cancer treatment. They were actually being used as human test subjects. Dr. Eugene Sanger told inmates he could cure their cancer with radiation therapy. What he didn't tell them was that he was giving them doses 100 times stronger than any real treatment. The Pentagon was paying him to do it. They wanted to know what radiation would do to soldiers in nuclear war. Most of the prisoners were African-American men who couldn't read the forms they signed. For 11 years, Sanger irradiated nearly 90 people. When they died, families were told it was cancer. But autopsy records told a different story: radiation poisoning. The University of Cincinnati helped cover it up. The military buried the evidence. It took 30 years for the truth to come out. Congressional investigators found that Sanger had violated every rule of medical ethics established after the Nazi experiments. The government finally admitted what they'd done, but for most of the victims, justice came too late. In 1979, two East German families spent 2 years planning the most dangerous escape of their lives. The Strelzics and Wetzels were going to fly over the Berlin Wall in a homemade hot air balloon. One failed attempt almost got them killed. But they didn't give up, because staying meant living in a prison state where the Stasi watched your every move, where automated machine guns lined the death strip, where trained attack dogs hunted escapes like prey. The Berlin Wall wasn't just concrete and barbed wire. It was a killing machine designed to stop people from reaching freedom. Some made it out. Konrad Schumann's famous leap over the wire. Others hid inside car engines or dug tunnels in the dark. But many died trying, shot down just meters from the west. Families torn apart by bullets and betrayal. On their second attempt, the two families climbed into their balloon basket under cover of darkness. 28 minutes later, they crash-landed in West Germany. They had escaped one of history's most sophisticated prison states. But thousands of others never made it out alive. In 1999, a nuclear worker named Hisashi Uchi received the highest dose of radiation ever recorded in human history. He should have died instantly. Instead, doctors kept him alive for 83 days. During a routine procedure at Japan's Tokamura nuclear plant, Uchi was exposed to 17 sieverts of radiation, 10 times the lethal dose. The radiation destroyed his DNA completely. His body began breaking down at the cellular level. His skin started peeling off in sheets. His organs shut down one by one. He begged the doctors to let him die, but they refused. The Japanese government saw an opportunity. They had never studied radiation effects this extreme on a living human, so they used experimental treatments to keep his heart beating. They watched as his body literally melted from the inside out. For nearly 3 months, Uchi endured unimaginable agony while doctors took notes. His case sparked international outrage over medical ethics, but the damage was done. One man's suffering became science's most disturbing experiment. In 1920, young women lined up for dream jobs at the U.S. Radium Corporation. They painted watch dials with glowing radium paint, making good money in clean, bright factories. Their supervisors told them the radium was harmless, even healthy. They were taught to lick their brushes to get the perfect point for precision work. Within months, something horrifying began happening. The women started glowing in the dark. Their hair, their skin, their breath. They thought it was magical. Then their jaws began rotting away. Their bones crumbled from the inside as radioactive radium replaced the calcium in their skeletons. When they tried to get help, company doctors told them they had syphilis. The corporation hired fake physicians to cover up the real cause. Meanwhile, executives knew the truth. They had known for years that radium was deadly. They protected themselves with lead shields while telling workers to lick poison. These dying women fought back with a lawsuit that changed history. They established the right to sue employers for workplace diseases. But victory came too late. They were already glowing ghosts, dissolving piece by piece. In 1983, 5 men died in the most horrific industrial accident ever recorded. They were deep-sea divers working on a North Sea oil rig, 400 feet below the surface. At 9 in the morning, their diving bell began its routine ascent to the surface. Then the unthinkable happened. A clamp failed. The pressurized chamber door blew open. In less than a second, the pressure dropped from 9 atmospheres to 1. The human body isn't designed for that. What happened next defies imagination. 4 men died instantly as their bodies literally exploded from the inside out. One victim's remains were scattered across 30 feet of rig structure. The 5th man lived for 10 minutes in unimaginable agony. The investigation revealed that Comex Diving Company had taken deadly shortcuts to save time and money. Proper safety protocols were ignored. Warning signs were dismissed. The autopsy reports were so graphic they remained classified for years. This disaster changed deep-sea diving forever. But for 5 families, the changes came too late. Some accidents are preventable. This was corporate murder.